Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the passive income. Those looking for stocks, anything to do with future expectations in these markets, because that's what we really need to talk about. A conversation I did not really want to have. I removed my video this week of this very conversation surrounding tariffs because I hate talking politics. But the fact of the matter is we know this is going to have some major affliction on our personal portfolios. This is going to be the bulk of the conversation. We'll start light, though, before we build into the insanity that you guys ensued into in my comments section. But we're also going to talk about me paying down the mortgage, so many other things from the stock conversations we had this week in my videos, because so many of you guys have been so active down there as of recent as the markets continue to print. And I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, take a look at this insanity. You could have threw a dart at the board this year, and this is one of those years where you likely would have outperformed. I mean, you had to do a pretty bad job at picking stocks so far this year to see any kind of red in your portfolio, right? I mean, look at this. It's crazy to think. I mean, look at, like, it's weird that you get Microsoft, but almost every other stock with the exception of Adobe, and there's a couple other ones in here like Global Payments that are like actually in the red. But I mean, this is just absolutely insane. We are in obviously a full-blown bull market, likely on the back of interest rate cuts and so many other things that are probably helped driving this as the economy kind of heads toward the soft landing. However, we don't know if that is still reassured. But what I do want to point out is, like, you know, just as a bit of a segue, the insanity of me watching like personal finance, because I feel like this is starting to become a religion for me. I mean, it's like it's way of life. And I've noticed that the conversations I have with the people around me, it's just like you can tell like how people act just basically on how they're spending their money and their views on the world. But like I see people innocently trying to help the stupid out there, right? I mean, you know, if I gave you $1 million today and you spent 40 grand a year, you'd run out of it in 25 years. But if you just invested it, earn 10% annually, you know, you could withdraw about 40K a year. I think you could withdraw more than that, but forever, basically, and you can still grow your wealth. The secret, the rich don't live off their money. They live off what their money earns, right? Turning it into an employee. That's just simple TikTok that I saw. And I'm just like going through the comments, and this is on like every person's video that's just trying to be helpful. Look at the top comment. No one has ever gotten a 10% return in years. The max is 4.5. Okay. No guarantee of a 10% return. And the interest is taxable. And then you say you're forgetting about tax components. It's like tax-free accounts. Like the dumbest of people reply to this. It's just like, it's like the most pure-hearted, easiest to understand message that you could just follow it and come into money and it changed your life. But these are the kind of people that get that money and go completely broke, right? And I just say this because I'm still somebody that like follows the philosophy. You know, it's got us our portfolio to where it's at today. I mean, sitting at about 338K, like we're over, you know, basically the 350 mark here, just with the gains that we've recently seen on the back of SCHD, the S&P 500, and so much more continuing to propel toward all-time highs. Hell, even VDY can't do anything wrong this year. But I am looking at actually changing out the portfolio a little bit, perhaps in the next week. I don't want to talk about it in this video just yet. I've been having some fun conversations around a very particular stock that is starting to win me over in a way that I haven't, I think, appreciated enough on this channel. And it's you know, it's something I've mentioned in the past. It's not like what I'm showing you. It's not Google, even though I'm going to be buying a lot more Google. I think I'm really kind of core focusing for 2025, a couple stocks that I just, you know, I really want to, you know, get in business with in a serious way, because I think there's some huge potential future, but I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to jump the gun too early or cause too much hype before at least I load the boat myself, right? But if you guys want to learn more about kind of the behind the scenes, and I've had people actually like start auditing my courses that I launched, and they said I'm severely undercharging for what I'm giving them. So if you want to take advantage of the Black Friday so-called deal, I'm doing it for the month of December. Go to kylelivingston.com. Link is in the description below. You can, you know, buy these spreadsheets. I have separated all the products out, but I highly recommend the course side of things because I'm putting some serious effort behind some of those videos where I show you my fiance and I's combined portfolio, how I manage my parents, so much more, just so much more behind the scenes that you wouldn't see otherwise on this channel. But heading into the next week, I think the biggest movers are the things I'm going to be paying most attention to. Firstly, the markets are relatively flat in pre-market. You know, the pre-markets aren't doing crap right now, but I think coming out of this long weekend where everyone's probably been hyping themselves up, you know, if you remember the crypto crash, and at Thanksgiving, everybody was like, oh, you told us about Bitcoin, you're an idiot. You cost us all this money. This time around, they're like, I told you I wasn't an idiot. And like came back with a vengeance because Bitcoin is really fighting for that 100K mark. I think we're going to get there you know, a lot of people have been debating on whether we hit 100K and it sells off. Honestly, I figured the sell-off would have came by now, and the market's been holding pretty strong. So, you know, if we keep the same momentum, there's no black swan. I don't see why Bitcoin's not getting over 100K relatively soon. You know, I'm not going to, I'm just speculating. I'm not really gambling on it. It's not like I'm loading the boat on Bitcoin or crypto. I'm not Michael Saylor, you know, I'm not selling out of my own stock while I'm buying a crap ton of crypto. I don't know what's going on, right? Nobody does. There's just so much profit here, man, that in volatility, that I think is going to be around the corner. Sorry, but when everyone and their mom starts talking about these stocks, it's time to sell. Exactly. That's why I have a perspective on some stocks that I think are largely underappreciated. I still think Google is probably one of the most underappreciated. And I want to talk about that in a little bit. Ryokan, unfortunately, I think we actually don't hold any Ryokan anymore. I should have done a fuller update on that because, like I said, when we sold all my wife's individual Canadian stocks, well, I mean, the mega cap stocks, just to consolidate into a ETF, we did end up selling the Ryokan. Which Canadian stocks may be misaffected? Okay, we're going to get to this conversation. This is the conversation that will be coming up. So let's get into it. But firstly, I do want to point out next week we have Canadian bank earnings. This is going to be very pivotal for a lot of us. I think a lot of us, you know, any money you have in the Canadian economy is largely residing on where these banks are going to go. I have high hopes. I think we're starting to see a turnaround trend in loan loss provisions. You know, interest rates have come down a lot. I think there's a lot of things to boast the banks right now, and we can start seeing them continue to actualize, hopefully, that record revenue. I think we're going to 2025, I think will be one of the best years for the recovery in the banks. A lot of you said great vid. You know, I've invested massively in the Canadian banks 1 year ago. It was so cheap, I could not resist. And my plan is to sell in the medium term. I'm up a lot, around 30%. Can't wait to see earnings next week. So a lot of you are on the same boat. I don't know what banks you pick that you're up a lot on. I always recommend that if you're going to buy them individually, go with the mega caps when they dip. Royal Bank, JP Morgan, you always go with the tippity top of the iceberg. Yeah, the yield's not as great, but that's the one that's always yielded the highest returns in the recovery, and it's persisting to be that way. Though, again, who knows what the future holds. I'd rather hold them like Pokemon cards, buy one ETF that gives you the basket that upper weights them, because I do think they lead most of the Canadian performance, and they tend to remove a lot of the volatility from the back end, you know, with the exception of this insane market that we've been through as of recently. But putting that aside, yes, you know, the tariff man himself, I really, really wanted to stay away from this, but you guys really lit the conversation up. So we're going to read your comments. I'm going to try and remain biased about this and offer my like base opinions, because again, I deleted the video on tariffs that I posted, or at least I unlisted it, because God, you feel dirty after talking about politics, and we're going to get down and dirty on a Sunday night, folks, because you know this has been one of the largest debates about a businessman that has become president, who you can't believe a word he's saying because half of what he says is bullshit, and that's just the world of business. Elon Musk, same thing, you know, says a lot of crap that doesn't come into fruition. Heck, they're even starting to do hydrogen cars, you know, they plan to. I mean, there's so much that goes on, right? And Elon Musk assures voters that Trump's victory would deliver temporary hardships. And this is where I think the market is kind of disconnected, because the market's rallied extensively on the back of the Trump win, but everything we're looking at from a policy standpoint is going to be, you know, a cause of inflation, a cause of concern if they do get implemented, right? And I think when Elon says it, and this guy is literally in bed with these people. I mean, he's the only guy that was in like the family photo with him and his kid and the rest of Trump's family. I mean, clearly if Elon's saying something, I would take it into consideration, because our own prime minister, you know, just having dinner with the guy, look at how happy Trump is. Trump smiles with like realness. Yeah, Trudeau smiles with like, oh God, another guy taking a photo. Like, you know, when you just have that melt smile, like that half-assed, yeah, you know, photo time. Not that like Trump smile, like he's just giddy inside. Trump has that real giddy smile going on. This, I love these photos. But hey, at least Trudeau's doing the effort, and he's trying to get into negotiation terms before Trump gets elected and tariffs the crap out of us. But thank you, Kyle. Which stocks would be affected in the next couple months? And how can we take advantage of the situation? Probably is a good topic for, you know, a follow-up video. The only thing I really want to bet on 100% is the Canadian election, because I think it's quite clear at this point, whether you like Trudeau or hate him, that the overall rhetoric is that Trudeau's not going to win the next election. I mean, people are landsliding the guy, like Kevin O'Leary on TV. Like, no one's talking about this guy, you know, in a good light at this point. Again, I'm trying to be biased here. It's just what I'm seeing. So, like, I would bet on it to some extent. And when it comes down to the actual stocks that are going to be affected, this is where things get very complicated, right? So some of you posted Trudeau has crashed the economy without the help of anyone. Look at the GDP per capita over the past decade. Yeah, the Canadian economy has not been doing as great, especially recently. We're kind of teetering on a recession. Correct, Kyle. This is negotiation tactics. Mexico has already promised to stop the ridiculous caravans on their way to the U.S. So somebody else pointed out, Jason, my man here, my OG guy, He also pointed out something very similar. It's all about securing our borders and stopping drugs. That's why Trump is threatening tariffs. He wants to protect U.S. citizens. Our government should have been doing it already. Pathetic that it makes a U.S. president to make it takes the U.S. president to make Canada do what it should have already been doing. And to some extent, this is a real problem that's been boiling in the economy for decades, for eons. I mean, for as long as you can remember, there's been a war on drugs, whether you legalize them, illegalize them. It's never resolved the issue. Whether you add high penalties in prison time has never alleviated the issues. You can put pounds of heroin in front of me right now. I have no desire to want to do that shit, but I don't think anybody wants to be in a situation where they end up on the street pounding heroin, right? Like, I mean, come on, guys. So I don't think tariffing countries over it is going to fix the problem as much as he promised to fix the border the first time around. Again, I'm not trying to be like hating on Trump. I'm just saying the guy's a businessman. Says a lot of shit to get some action rolling, but that action I don't think is going to have any effect. Again, you can slap whatever you want. There is an underlying issue with drugs and immigration that has nothing as much to do, with just tariffing people as it does to underlying issues that need to be resolved. Now, whether Mexico can fix it, whether Canada can, intervene and cause some things that fix this, but watch, I guarantee you this fentanyl problem that Trump has been really relating to will not get resolved just by forcing tariffs on country and making them do tighter laws. It's going to make the supply tighter. It's going to cause price inflation on these drugs. But I promise you, it's for as long as I've been alive, the war on drugs doesn't matter the economic environment. I don't think tariffs are going to change that. That's just my personal opinion. And what this is going to do is if we do see a 10% tariff, and I think the hardest hit effect is going to be China. And I don't know how you can kind of manhandle China when China literally carries most of the United States debt. I find that very interesting. But nonetheless, what we are seeing here is companies that highly, involve in trade with China, because obviously making products in China is far cheaper than making them in the United States, and robotics. And no matter how you want to look at AI, it is nowhere near efficient enough to be bringing prices down to China or India, or, you go to some of these unfortunate second, third world countries where you can take advantage of that. It's going to be very hard to compete in the current market environment. So when you look at a company like Amazon, I think this is either going to be the best benefactor or the worst hit company. And the reason that I say it's kind of a bipolar split, I have a split opinion on Amazon, is because they do over 70%. If you are in e-commerce, over 70% of products sold on Amazon is from China. And when you look at like a 10% increase, it's like, holy shit. I mean, it's like the most easiest calculation of any company. If over 70% of their products, a company that's annualizing about $620 billion, you're looking at somewhere about 450, 480, somewhere around there. That's like 70% of their total revenue, right? So if you tap 10% extra tax on that 400 plus $1 billion, you're talking about an extra $40 billion in revenue that either Amazon is going to be, we're going to see go through their system, or people are just going to say, I can't afford this anymore. And they're going to start being a little bit more picky with what they're buying on Amazon. So it's going to go in one of either two ways. Either the economy is going to prove incredibly strong if these tariffs aren't bluffs, if these actually come into fruition. I mean, it's Amazon, I think, is going to be one of the most interesting companies to watch because it will be the most affected. Now, obviously, when it comes to Canada and Mexico, Mexico is the largest exporter of auto parts. Canada is the biggest of energy, whether it is oil and gas or it is utility hydro going down to the United States. And I don't know what putting a 25% tariff on oil and energy is going to do, other than, the U.S. does have access to its own oil. So there are some back-end concerns on the Canadian economy. Maybe not, the U.S. might be able to fast track its reliance on its own oil. I don't really know. But what this is going to do is piss off everybody. And it's going to cause, retaliations to some extent, which is what I'm more interested in, because we've only heard Trump's side. We haven't actually heard the other side, other than maybe a few people saying, look, we'll try and do this. Maybe we'll implement that. We'll try and ease the Trump, just to make it look like there's something going on to hopefully get them off our back or these other countries back. But I'm promising you, this is going to be 2025 will be one of the most interesting economic circumstances, because we're coming on the back of what should have been a recession, but we've avoided, which shows resilience in a lot of economies, mostly the US and the Western world. Canada has actually done much better than a lot of other economies out there. China's having a bit of a rebound here. These tariffs could directly hinder that, obviously. I mean, there's just so much going on geopolitically. It's just going to be a year of insanity. Let's be real. Like I said, Amazon, you pay attention to so many different things, but I don't want you to get absorbed into it, because at the end of the day, right, like, you can't take any of this into consideration. If you want to try trading it, I would do it, very sparsely with certain aspects of your portfolio, because the real issue with trading in this market is there's so much economic risk. So basically, when you're trading, you always have the risk. Like, I mean, when you listen to Dumb Money, you're watching people doing big Tesla trades and all this stuff, that you have this thesis, right? You always have a thesis on a stock, but right now there's so much uncertainty around what's going to happen that any of those uncertainties, that is going to cause the economic risk that could tank the stock, whether there's good news or bad news, whether you have a good trade or a bad trade, it doesn't matter. Your thesis is largely getting skewed in the percentage of return because of these uncertainties are getting greater and greater. And it just takes one news article, one turn in this, one turn in that, and then all of a sudden, like, you're going to start seeing a downturn in the market. Again, because we're pretty high. Keep in mind, there's still a lot of cash on the sidelines. I'm not doubting that we could go to all-time highs. I'm just saying there's an extreme amount of volatility and uncertainty ahead. I think we can all represent that. And we see it in the comment section. I mean, you see it raging on, right? Like, you know, Trump is such a moron. Trump is a genius. The USD is getting stronger. Trump is for American people, unlike the turd who's been in power for 9 years. Again, these are your comments, right? He is a moron for wanting more secure borders. Okay, that's not how you do it. Ruining relationships with trading partners on day one. You know, the U.S. trades with the world. The USD is the world reserve currency, right? And this also has a lot to do with the fact they jacked interest rates up and remained a strong currency. A lot of money flooded into U.S. dollars. It's where it still sits. It's why the USD is still remaining at almost all-time highs, which, again, goes against the whole Bitcoin narrative that, oh, like, everyone's raging about how shitty the US dollar is. Take a US dollar anywhere in the world right now, and I'm sure you'll greatly appreciate that you work in that country. But basically, someone is full of himself. The US is a declining power. Nuns trust them anymore. Again, I think it's these are microcosm conversations. If Canada and Mexico had more secure borders, this would not be a problem in the first place. This goes both ways. Isn't it up to the states to secure their own borders? Yeah, I mean, exactly both ways. It isn't the job of other countries to keep people out of the country. Your government is incompetent. Yeah, I mean, there's chances on that. It's more like likely you need to wake up to reality. The U.S. is the strongest economy in the world and the most trusted trading partner in the world. Why do you or who do you trust more? Russia, China law? Give me a break. You're full of yourself. It's like I said, these conversations, these political, you know, it's crazy, right? They can't even wait until the current trade agreement expires in 2026 before putting on tariffs. Real trustworthy. Why bother negotiating at all when you can't be trusted? Good riddance. Yeah, I think this is the anxiety and the uncertainty that is going to persist through 2025. So you guys are hilariously over getting involved. Like I said, take a breath back, come to Canada, smoke a J. Let's not get. I really don't want to live in a world like we just went through with this political election where people just like lose family members over this shit. It's like, take it with a grain of salt. Have a fun political debate, but let's not start throwing fists over it. But some of you are pointing out that VDY can crash if Trump imposes a 25% tariff. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not going to bank on it. I just diversify, right? Like, I think, again, it's too unknown to bet on it. And because the uncertainty is too high, you have to wait till we actually know what's going on. And then you're better off playing the trade after the fact. Like, let's say he does do tariffs on Canada. It's going to hurt. You're going to see everything get hit. It's likely we're going to go into a bearish market, and it's not going to be like a one-day drop. It'll be like a continuation of bearishness. So, I mean, you can take advantage of like that if, say, something like that comes into fruition. But again, right now it's purely a speculation for the most part. Some of you were pointing out too, based on some of my other videos, we'll answer a few of your questions. Kyle, congratulations on realizing some gains. Yeah, I took some out of the corporation because some of you are saying maybe for subsequent videos you could showcase your math. Did you factor in capital gains? Hell no, I didn't. Did you draw from your TFSA? No. I will always hesitate to sell due to triggering taxation events. Yeah, I don't really care about paying taxes in my corporation as much. Luckily, I make decent money at my job. And I got some good side hustle income, and you're going to pay taxes no matter what. I just looked at it as, hey, I'm up a lot. I don't really care about paying a bit of tax on it. If I can, immediately pay it out of the corporation, pass the taxation down to myself and my fiance, we will be the ones paying the higher bracket out of my corporation, but I don't really care because I was just, happier, sleeping easier at night, taking a bit of profit, paying the mortgage down. It is what it is. But yeah, I took it out of the corporation. I wouldn't take it out of my tax-free savings account again. I'd be very cautious. May I ask what bank you have your RSP with that you use to buy VOO? Yeah, basically Scotiabank. It's not the best. He says he's got Wealthsimple. Keep with Wealthsimple. You can buy VFV and do some other traded stuff. I think for noobs out there, Wealthsimple is probably the best. You got to have big dollars if you're investing with the big banks because they just charge too much in fees. Other than you get currency fees waived with Royal Bank if you're a customer. But let's go through some Q&As real quick. I want to see what you guys are talking about down there on this side of the Trump trade and just get a more clerical view. We're going to go back to the top here. Buy NVIDIA now. It's going to fly. Yeah, potentially, but it's very expensive still. And I'm really worried actually that AI, and I'm seeing it more and more now, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it if you actually utilize the tools that, Meta just upgraded, and maybe I'll show you this. I use this religiously for photos right now. Meta just updated their llama to 3.2 and it's garbage. It's absolute garbage. So I have been look at these images that I've been generating and they're just garbage. They're like, they somehow are trying to tweak realism and it didn't work. Because like if it can't be real enough, it goes to clip art, like things that you would see that like are just so generic clip art that they're so trash. But look, if I go up, you'll see that all these are garbage. But if I go up to where I was before, look at how great some of these clip arts are. I mean, if you saw the ones on my channel, like look at how great that image is right there. How awesome is that? I mean, these images were so good. Like I just kind of generate a lot of images. This image is awesome. Like there's so many good ones on here, buildings on fire and like red charts and bears and like just unbelievably incredible video. Like, look at this. How good is that? Like AI bubble. That's awesome. You can't generate these images anymore the way I just did. You could do the same search prompts. You won't get any of these awesome video images. I mean, let me just pull look at like this one of the stock market or the rocket ship. Like I'm using these on my website. Like, look at how good those are. Nope. They effed it up. They updated it and it's not any better. Are you still buying the S&P? Yeah, I'm always buying the S&P. Even though I sold it at my corporation, I'll still buy it. Again, I'm going to do an update this week. Just subscribe for it. I just don't want to jump the gun on it too early. There's just one stock that I've curdled over for, and I haven't felt this way about a company in a very long time. Maybe Tesla in 2019 kind of gave me those vibes. Not saying it's going to work out like Tesla did, but I just feel like it's largely underappreciated. Which Canadian stocks may be misaffected by Trump's tariffs? I don't know. Honestly, who the hell knows? If it's going over the border, you're going to get screwed. Sorry, but when everyone and their mom starts talking about, yeah, we talked about that. I see Palantir at 100 by February, though. Potentially, it's very expensive, man. I think they need to really boost earnings. I don't know how it's gotten to the valuation it's gotten to. I get this backlog. I've looked at it 10 different ways over and I just can't. I'm just like, it's kind of like Tesla. Like when you look at the amount of companies you could buy for the same valuation, I mean, go look at compare Berkshire Hathaway and the conglomeracy that they own and they're the same price as Tesla. And I just, it's just kind of similar to Palantir, guys. We're in an AI bubble-ish. I don't know when it comes down, but you got to admit, Palantir, very expensive company, man. It's definitely priced its way to premium. Again, it can prove those valuations just like NVIDIA is. Maybe we see earnings continue to grow. Like I said, I'm a dumbass, and I should have just traded it. But I didn't because I was a dumbass. And I'm same with Shopify, which I use. Same with Constellation Software, any software company you name it, I'm a tool. I can never fully grasp my brain around the values. Trump is going to crash the markets. I think so. I think there's bigger risk of volatility with Trump. The fact that even Elon and anybody that's near the guy has warned us that things are going to get tough. I just don't understand how the market just thrives on Trump, even though like everybody around the guy is like, get ready, it's coming. And we're like, shit, man, these are real like things that are going to affect the market. Yeah, and I mean, it could be negotiation tactics. Who knows? Tariffs worked before, but government decided to seal. Yeah, tariffs. I mean, you got to look though, man. Like, I don't know. International trade has been a thing for a very long time. If you go and like reference what Trump's talking about when he says like when tariffs like really made a difference, it's just that we're so in bed with China. The U.S. is so in bed with all these other countries that when you hear these geopolitical things going on and who's supporting Russia and this and that, when realistically, like we're all in bed together for the most part. I like look at what America, just literally do your homework and snap your finger and imagine China just completely severed off from the US, from all trade, and watch how fast the US economy would completely crash. That's why I don't understand. Like, oh, China can't get these advanced chips and China can't do that. It's like, guys, Amazon would literally go under. I mean, you look again, if 70% of their money is coming from China and all those products are coming from China, what happens to the Western way of life? When everything we use today pretty much comes from China, it would literally destroy Amazon overnight. That's what I'm saying. Like, watch Amazon through this. I'm just really surprised no one's been talking about it. I've just seen a few podcasts where these people that are in e-commerce are like, this is actually scary. Like, it's really going to impact a lot of it. I've been playing just NVIDIA for 4 years. I see it going to 200. But yeah, I mean, it's a good stock right now for sure. I'd rather own it through the things. I wish I kept my TSM though, but you try not to look too bad on the regrets of stocks I should have kept. Very nice. And then I bought when I was 185 in 2022, the giant run up of the stock. AVDO is great too. What else we got going on here? I think I might be heading into the software phase of AI now. Nice. I tell all newbies, buy tech blue chips when they are red days and dollar cost average. You'll see a profit in a few years. Again, I say the same thing because we've had 15 years of tech companies that continue to excel. I'm just curious, man, when they become too bloated. I really think Apple and Microsoft are incredibly bloated for the valuations that we're getting today. I think any analyst out there like completely understands that we are in an overvalued market for the most part, or it's a hype market. And a lot of people point to Nvidia and say Nvidia's growing. It's like, okay, we'll go back to 2022. I can point at tons of companies that were still growing. I mean, just look at how much Meta dropped because their earnings were going down. I'm just saying, like, these things shift at any point in time. Like, you just don't understand the economic circumstance. You can't just, it's all fugazi. You can't just point to earnings. This is why everything money and using like fundamental valuation tools are a joke, because they don't predict what happens tomorrow. They don't predict economic risk or change in business or change in sentiment or change in product use or whatever. What else we got going on? Yeah, lots of tech under 100 MA. Yeah, I only like Google, man. I think Google and Meta are the two cleanest stocks to buy. Google's a little bit more unclean just because they have the back end of the risks with obviously this monopolistic stuff. We'll see how that turns out, but I'm willing to bet on it because it's trading probably about $1 trillion below its actual value. I don't know how Meta Google, Meta's justified some of the AI trade because it's investing so heavily. But I mean, you look at where Google's at with quantum, you look at where Google's at with self-driving, you look at the Android and just, oh my God, the insanity of what Google actually owns. And I just don't understand how it doesn't trade at like a 40 times multiple. I mean, you look at YouTube and streaming. I mean, is there a better streaming service out there than YouTube? No. I wouldn't be surprised if, in the next 10, 20 years, YouTube doubles, or like I could see it easily tripling or quadrupling up. Like, I think YouTube, if self-driving or one of these other things don't really blow up in the next 10 or 20 years, YouTube will likely be the cash cow that overtakes search for Google. I just feel it, of all streaming. If 10 years go by, where could Netflix be? Where is Disney going to be? They're all paying way too much money. I just love Google. Everything I look about Google, it's just, we'll see. Started investing in February. Thanks for the great advice on VDY, SHD. Yeah, they're good companies, depending on where you're at in your investing career. Not financial advice, obviously. My target date fund jumped 14K since Trump won the election. Bro, I have made, I don't even know. My wife and I accounts, since we even like reconstituted her. I mean, you got to imagine we liquidated a good chunk of our accounts to put a deposit down on real estate. And when like I look at our accounts today, it's just like, we've made back almost all of it. It's like, it's barely been a year. And like, we're up 6 figures. And it's just like, I get a little bit angst because like I miss the days of owning individual stocks and getting that volatility bump where you see like massive gains from individual stocks, which we are seeing. I mean, we've seen it with Meta. Like, I think the wife's up like 78% just this year alone, or 80% or something stupid. We're seeing still a lot of growth in our stocks. I'm just saying, it's not like the days where like I only held like 10 companies and you'd see like crazy huge mood swings. But I keep forgetting that I didn't have a lot of money back then. So to see like a stock take me from like 5 or 10K to 30K was like mind blowing. But, my accounts wouldn't move 100K in a single year. But now, like, when the markets go up 20%, you got $500,000 laying around. It's like, okay, well, there's 100 G's pretty quick, right? So it's like trying to train my brain a little bit to be like, you got to just take a breath and just remind yourself you're building legacy wealth here. And if I never touch my portfolio again, over the retirement age in the next 30 years, if I just don't touch it, I could be worth 10, 20 million bucks. So, you always got to take a breath like Warren Buffett and remind yourself you don't need to rush. You don't need to act all the time. There's always something to act on, but you don't need to do it all the time. You can take a breath. Going to get the wife to guest on the show. I wish. She'll probably never guest. She's just a much more private person. We have a great deal of respect for that. So, I mean, she doesn't care what I do, but, she just never, I think women in finance is a little lackluster. I wish there was more women in finance, like finding their own little niche. Cause I just feel like, women maybe not want to listen to men about finance as much as they might want to listen to women about finance. So do you keep your BTC on Trust Wallet or cold storage? I used to keep it on a cold storage. I have a Trezor actually right here. Honestly, I don't own that much Bitcoin. If you want to see how much Bitcoin we hold, again, KyleLivingston.com, links in the description below. You can see the wife and I's account. I reveal almost everything. There's a few things in there that aren't in the account, but Bitcoin's in there. My dad's been doing so well with Bitcoin. Oh my God. I won't get into it. My dad shake pays all the time. I haven't had the energy to shake pays doing this promotional thing, and he's getting free Bitcoin. My dad's like the most technically unsavvy guy. But he just keeps shaking and getting free Bitcoin. I love it. All in Google 2025. Yeah, I have 2 stocks. I'm going to reveal the second one next week, but Google is definitely going to be one of our larger positions. It's not quite the size of a Meta yet, but I imagine it'll probably be the size of Meta early next year. I'm going to keep buying it. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I do appreciate you all stopping in this evening. The 100 of you that, we're trying to get the streams back up and rolling. I'm trying to get some, get out of my comfort zone a little bit. The problem is when I ramble about stuff that I feel disgusted by, politics, you'll see me post and unlist videos. A lot of people thought I wasn't doing streams, but I just kept on listing them. Because I don't know, sometimes I just feel dirty when I talk about certain things, and I just angst. I'm like, I don't want this representing me. XRP, anyone? You guys in XRP, man? Let's take a quick look at the crypto side of things. So another thing that I wish I did a little bit more of, again, I got to remind myself, I do very well. But again, sometimes you recognize that, and I've been saying it for a long time, guys, if you're into crypto, and I told myself I just should have done it, but I knew that buying altcoins was where the money was going to be at. I've been saying it for a while. I've talked to a lot of people. If you follow Alex Becker or anybody in the crypto space, they all said the same shit. Forget Bitcoin. Forget the upper weighted coins. You need to be playing the lower sector, because when Bitcoin rockets, the rest of these coins, they do 3 to 5x whatever Bitcoin's going to do. And I mean, look at XRP. These 326%. How long did that take? Not very long, right? I mean, if you just held it for a week, I mean, you just look at coin market cap. And again, I'm not trying to promote. I really think crypto is something you trade. I don't think it's something you hold. You can debate that all you want. It's the same thing with gold to me. I just don't want to hold an unactive asset. It just doesn't get me excited enough. And I hate that I have to sell it to take profit for the most part. Again, I'm also a total return oriented guy, and I do own gold and I do own crypto, but I recognize, what actually makes real money. And it's trading, man. Look at Doge. I mean, look at how dumb this is. You could have bought Doge, look at the last year's just been absolutely ridiculous. I mean, again, so look, the last month, you would have made 177%. Bitcoin's not up 177%. So I'm just saying, right? If you want to trade this stuff, trade it. It's probably smarter than holding it. And now you have to be really cautious. You missed the major move. Now you want to be just a little bit more, take a breath on this shit, because now is not the time to be that excited. Like the guy said at the top of the stream, when everyone and their grandmother is losing their minds about this shit, it is not the time to be losing your minds. It's why I'm looking at things that are underappreciated in the market, like Google. I would just rather buy things people hate. And again, look at 3M. So many people out there, and I'm starting to gain a little more respect for Jeremy at Financial Education. I'm gaining respect for people that recognize that they're kind of getting tired of this endless pump. They're just okay. It's great. You can hold the position. You took some profit. We're just going to sit and see what happens. But the real money, is in finding some of these major dips that happen in these huge brands, right? So I do appreciate people that dig around and they actually they're just looking for something that's different now. Because I'm just so tired of hearing about Palantir and Nvidia and just the same stocks over and over, and they've been working over and over. But I'm promising you, the slap upside the head day is coming. It'll come eventually. Infinity to the moon only exists for so long at super high valuations. I mean, how do you pull forward? I got 11 video, man, but let me just again, look at this, guys. I just want to remind you. I want to remind you about how insane the drop is going to be if they give up on. And again, people think this is long-term. This is not a long-term trend. It's a short term. It could last for, I could see maybe 3 to 5 years at the max. And I don't even think it's going to last that long, but you see this is not normal for a company. And you ask yourself why? Well, it's not me or you. Me or you are not driving this revenue growth. It's literally just big business to business trade. And business to business trade is going to reach parity eventually. Eventually, we're going to have enough chips to be doing what we need to do, or it's not going to be scaling like it once was. And the orders are going to start to slow down. And eventually there will not be a backlog. And eventually NVIDIA is not going to be able to charge the insane amount of Pablo Escobar money they're charging. I'm telling you guys, you can't be charging what you're charging and making the money you're making and expect this to last. If you've ever worked in a business in your life, I've got one of the best videos I'm going to show you before I bugger off. This is going to be worth waiting for. I'm going to show you one of the best videos I've seen in a while. I hope I saved it. For the love of God, tell me I saved. Yeah, I did save it. You guys are gonna love this. One second. Let me just airdrop this to my laptop. I'm sure you've seen this before, but I think this is like the best representation of like how business actually operates. So let me just pull this up real quick. Saved my down. I gotta love airdrop, man. The Apple ecosystem is still beautiful compared to fucking Microsoft shit. But watch this. So have you guys ever seen this video? It's like the best representation of business. Like this kid's selling out his competitor. This is like Amazon right here. He's selling out his competitor, and the competitor is like, "Oh man, that's so annoying. I'm going to drop the price down to $10. Let's see who gets the sales now, baby." So what does the competitor do? Okay, you're pretty cheap. I'm just going to buy you out, right? If you're going to compete with me and you're going to do this price war, let me. This is like real capitalism at its finest, right here. And then all of a sudden, this guy's like, "Yeah, I stacked the cash," but then the competitor's thinking long term, right? And then jacks the price up. I love this so much. Oh, what a great example of like how business actually operates. So imagine you have a company right now, and you're a Fortune 500 company, and you're watching a company like Nvidia, a company you're paying billions of dollars to, just rake in cash, at absurd levels. And you're the one causing that, and it's not benefiting your shareholders. So you have to imagine as a CEO, you're like, how do we compete? It's not fair that we're giving Nvidia this money. We should be retaining this money for shareholders. So what do you get? Oh, Meta AI chip. Oh, what's this? What's this? Introducing our next generation infrastructure for AI. I thought Nvidia was building our next generation infrastructure. Oh no, we actually started making our own chips, guys. Boom, Meta. Oh, what about Amazon? Amazon AI chip. What's that? Amazon's doing the same thing. Oh, what's that? All the biggest competitors, all the people that are buying from Nvidia are actually starting to make their own chips. I wonder why. Why are they doing this, guys? I'm just saying, be real careful. I'm not trying to be like belittling by any metric, but I'm just saying the business environment you're currently witnessing, come back to this video in like 5 years and we'll see where we'll see where we're at. Cause I like I said, I've been around the block. I've seen this story a dozen times. You just want to be very cautious. It's another, we don't know what tomorrow brings. But on that note, folks, I appreciate the 135 of you sticking around for the tariff talk, the insanity of political war that I'm not looking forward to. I'm going to try and remain positive. Please, for the love of God, don't become jaded. Just don't become jaded. You have to imagine, when was I old enough to start giving a shit about this stuff? Like, I want to go back to an age when my friends didn't give a shit. When we just had a good time, Peace out, everybody. I'll see you next time.